Welcome to the complete animation of Rain from the 2002 film Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron. I'm just gonna come out and say it. This movie is incredible. It only gets better with time because the fact that its art style is so unlike what we get in modern times. Yeah. And it wasn't until I watched it most recently when I really looked at it with my new eye for animation that I was even able to tell when the horses transitioned from being hand drawn to being CG. It's like I've watched this movie many times over the last 19 years, and it took me until now before I became able to consistently notice when they aren't actually hand drawn. This movie does a really good job of transitioning between its CG stuff and its hand drawn stuff. In fact, most people, if they watch, would never even notice it because either they're not looking for it or they don't know what the telltale signs are. But yeah. And they do so many incredible things with this movie. Like horses, they've got massive lungs inside their chest. When they're breathing hard, their chest expands and contracts a ton, and this movie captures it. I think that this is probably the best that horses have ever been animated in a hand-drawn style. And I doubt that it'll ever be surpassed. Because 2D animation just doesn't sell or whatever. They don't make it anymore. And so it's very unlikely that this movie will ever be surpassed in just its accomplishment with what it was able to do with this art style and horses. It's really hard to describe. But let's talk about the character Rain. So none of the horses talk, and Spirit only is able to talk through narration and things. But I think that there's quite a bit of character development for Rain. She is pretty loyal to her human master. She does a ton of stuff with her eyes. Like the way that she rolled her eyes when Spirit is like, oh, look what I can do, and grabbed an apple, and then the way that she changes tone when she realizes that he wants to share it. Yeah, pretty good stuff. And the way that she trips Spirit, she walks around with the rope and then yanks on the rope to trip his legs out from under him. She's a pretty good joker. Yeah. I think that given the 12 minutes of screen time that she has and the no dialogue that she has, they actually did quite a bit to establish what she's like and to give actual weight when she ends up deciding to leave her master to follow Spirit. I think his name was Little Creek. Yeah. That's another thing about this movie. All of the main characters, none of them are kids. The interactions that the humans have with each other are not lighthearted and carefree. It's this movie has a heavy story. It's who did they make this movie for? What was the intended audience? it certainly wasn't, little girls, because if it was made for little girls, the horses would be a lot cuter, and Rain would never have been shot, and it wouldn't have taken place in the middle of a war between the United States and Indians. Like, who is this movie for? The only thing I can think of, this movie was made for me. Somebody who grew up and has lived basically his entire life in the Mountain West, who absolutely adores mountains covered with pine trees and like this movie is basically a love letter to the Mountain West. In that respect, I think that this is probably one of the most American movies ever made. Because there's like almost nothing about this movie that could apply to the rest of the world. This is the only place in the world that has landscapes like this. This is the only place in the world that could have a story about wild horses like this. This is such an American movie. And it basically defies genre. It's like the closest genre that you could peg on this is calling it a Western. But it doesn't really have any of the trappings of a Western. It's like the only cowboys you see were just the guys camping out in the mountains when they caught Spirit and then took him to the army base. Yeah, this scene right here, just seeing her chest go up and down, seeing her nostrils expand and contract. Oh my goodness, this is beautiful. And they spend so much time on this scene. They really give it enough time to develop. It's like, yeah, she just got shot. She just went over a waterfall. She is in a lot of pain. And it's like, when the army guys come over and say, leave the mare, she's not going to make it, you actually feel like that because she's just been lying there at the edge of a stream for hours on end. Yeah. And I really like how they lean into the manes that horses have, especially Spirit's mane. It's like, it's not often that you get a male character with such long hair that they just gush over what they can do with the hair on the character, the way they animate it. Although, it does see, like, the fact that Spirit is the main character and probably had the most artistic talent put onto him, it does kind of make this focus on Rain seem a little bit jarring, because her hair is nowhere near as detailed with like single strands and things that Spirit had. I think that when you really start looking at this, you can tell that, yeah, Spirit was not only the main character, he was the character that they spent the most effort on. And his hair is so good. Oh my goodness. It's like every time I watch this movie, another part of it just stands out to me with how good it is. And this most recent time, just Spirit's mane, so good. And the way that they have the locks of hair play around his forehead and around his eyes, it's just so satisfying. Another thing that really stuck out to me is just the sheer variety of environments they go to. It's like they took the entire Mountain West, from the high mountains of Colorado to the windswept plains of Wyoming to the red rock landscapes of southern Utah. It's like all of that to the super dry mountains of Idaho. Just everything. They compressed it all into one movie. They even at the beginning were able to show you what deep winter in the high mountains looked like when Spirit was just a cult. The This movie, more than any other, really showcases what there is to love about the American Mountain West. I don't think that I've ever seen a movie that is a love letter to a land as much as this one is. And this movie is so deep, so many layers. It's like, yeah, there's a ton of stuff about the land. Then there's also a deep-seated character study with Spirit going on his adventure all the way to showing in brutal like detail exactly what a conflict between the United States and Indians looked like. And the music is incredible. Oh my goodness. Hans Zimmer and Bryan Adams together, we'll never get another combination like that. This movie is so good. It's like, I can't think of anything that I dislike about this movie. And it makes it so sad that the spin-off series and spin-off movie did so wrong by this movie. Thanks for watching.